Okay, so another day on the charts. Um, this is the day before the 4th, so volume is a little low. Not too many great opportunities, honestly, today, but we're going to talk about this range trading and what I could have done better. Okay, so as always, let's just start from the beginning. I get here around this bar. Okay, so at the time when I'm looking at this, um, I'm seeing a strong move higher, almost no EMA touches, and then its first break and pull back to the EMA. Something to keep in mind is that prices have not broken above at all this whole way. This whole way, nothing breaks above. So that's kind of interesting to me. But then the next thing I'm looking for when I show up today is that we have congestion, technical congestion. So I'm making a little range area for that. That's going to be, let's use that line. So there's a little technical congestion. So I'm trying to treat that as if I see the right entry, I'll take a long up to there. I'd be sketched out taking a short because we are expecting prices to come up to the highs. So I'm not really looking for shorts yet. So I let price print. It's moving lower, lower. Okay. Then we get this bar. I'm not looking to buy that because of the matching lows and matching highs. And it's not really that strong of a signal bar anyway. Um, and at this point, for sure, we have a micro trend going down. So although I'm still bullish overall because of this move, in a shorter term sort of way, I might actually be looking for shorts off this high. But regardless, I think we will come back and retest this area. So I let that develop. And then from here, I get a nice signal bar. Interesting thing about this trade is that although we're moving down, like I said, I'm treating this like a breakout from the range. So I'm looking for prices to test this breakout area. And when you draw your micro trend off those two highs and then bring it down, as you can see, all I did was copy and paste the same line. Now you have that bullish candle right off of your lower line. So if nothing else, you're then going to expect prices to come test the upper side of your line, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes it'll just congest to the side. So it's still aggressive to trade that, but we're kind of expecting that. Still pretty early in the day. It's like 6:30 at this point. So I'm assuming a lot of people are seeing this move and they're trying to get long where they can. So pretty straightforward. I'm in and out. Easy trade. I don't get a lot on that trade though. So, you know, I'm just working to take the trades out that are winning by a tick. In theory, you might even enter on a stop. And if you entered on a stop on this trade, you didn't get out. And then the next bar is a big red bar. So, you can definitely see now that this channel is real and it's there. Um, this spot on the chart is super interesting because technically it's a second entry long, right? If you look at the high, prices never broke above until here. So that's my first entry. And then the break here is a second entry. With all of this bearish sentiment, I'm not ready to take that long, especially after seeing this long reverse so quick. Um, I'm not really digging that one, but it is something to note that that trade was definitely a second entry long, and it would have worked. It would have worked. So now we are at our line, our bearish line. Um, Look at this. You know, this is micro congestion, right? Um, so you can see it real time. Bar that's inside of this bar, that's inside of that bar, it's congestion. So I would just put my lines at the most extreme open and the most extreme close of the biggest bar. So the close and the open there. So now that's my little range that I'm playing with basically. So if I can, I definitely want to get short up here, and I'm looking for that to come test these lows, come test this line, something like that. And then on the very next bar, prices go above, they break out, false breakout, and then close one tick off the lows. In this situation, I like that. I like that. So I took the short, and it ticked down a little bit and reversed and had a nice reversal candle. My stop is one tick above this bar at 29.85.25. So I'm feeling some heat. And then on the very next bar, it reverses again. You know, so you're starting to see multiple reversals, stacking bars. Look how like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, six stacking bars. It's getting really congested up in here. And once it starts to get this congested, um, there's really no telling where it's going to go. But for now, my trade looks decent. Got a couple ticks to my exit, so I'm just going to let that play out. Um, then look, bar 7, another reversal. So at this point, it's just like, okay, this is really confusing and hard. I'm considering exiting this trade. Probably at break even. If you can get +1, that's even better. But regardless, my stop is one tick above these highs. So here. So, if that swings too high, then, we're out. Look, bar 8 stacking up again. So at this point, even though I want to see it retest the lows, I mean, it's just going back and forth. There's no way to really judge it. And by the time, that's just a losing trade. There's not much more to say about that one other than maybe you tried to get out at break even and you might not have, honestly. And then maybe you just got to take the loss on that one. There's not too many places, too many ways to get out of that one early. That would have made a lot of sense. Other than just seeing all of this. I don't know why it keeps doing that, by the way, guys. Sorry about that. Other than just seeing that all these bars were stacking up. That's the only thing that would have given you a clue. Anyway, I digress. Prices move. I actually really like this short. A small doji at the top of a range. Now we have an established range. All this congestion in here. So a small doji at the top. You might expect prices to come down here somewhere. But once again, I'm still looking at this big trend saying, hey, prices are probably going to go higher at some point. And when we tried to test the lows here, it couldn't even get close. So taking this short, I was kind of nervous that it's going to tick a couple ticks and then reverse and then kind of make the move to the highs. Um, so it really just depends on how you saw it. Maybe if I hadn't just exited that position, I would have been more capable and ready to risk. And that's a small risk bar. I mean, you know, you risk 4 or 5 ticks entering that. It's pretty good risk reward, at least for scalping. But I didn't take it. That worked out. It's probably that was the trade of the day. As ugly as that was so far, that's been it. Um, so then prices just keep bouncing. Now, here's, I think, what I would call my first real mistake of the day. I took this short, and there's a real reason why this isn't a good short. Um, so we just talked about how this doji set up at the top of our range, and we want to take the short to the bottom. In that same sense, I saw this high and then a lower high and was thinking, okay, now that I have a lower high with a nice signal bar, let's see if it finally does reach the lows or at least touch here and I can get out. The problem with this is that when you're trading a range, you really want to have your shorts off the line and off the lower lines, or buying off the lower lines, right? See, where I enter this trade right there, prices have already passed the midpoint of this range. Like that is low. That's the middle of the range. I took a short in the middle. Although it has a nice signal bar, you know, that's a sketchy place to take a short in a range. Super sketchy place to take a short. So that alone, but in the moment, I was kind of jumping the gun trying to get in on that trade. But in the moment, I should have definitely just waited because I'm in the middle of a range taking a short. It's liable to do this. When it did this, I almost wasn't surprised. I was just like, oh, duh. What am I doing? So this was definitely a mistake taking that. A placement error. That's pretty much what that was. It's a placement error. Okay. As you can see, prices ticked one above, but I had a 2-point stop, 83.75. So I had two more ticks before my 2-point stop would have hit. But now I'm sketched out. And once again, see how we're just stuck in this area. We're just stuck in this little 3-point range. Man, as a scalper and even as any trader, there's nothing good going on. Once you see prices doing this sort of thing, just walk away, because trying to get in and out, it's just really unpredictable. It's as liable to go higher as it is to go lower. If you're not selling right here on this line or buying right off of that line, I mean, you're just 50-50 in it. And by the time I saw this bar, this to me was a clear sign that prices are probably going to move higher. Failed break lower, closed on its high. Even though it's at the highs of a range, no, take the full context into play. We had this super strong overnight bullish move. Prices are congesting. We're expecting it to come up to these highs at some point. So when I see this bar, I'm just like, look, I need to get out of this short. This ain't it. That's what I did. And I reversed the trade. So I took a long, because if you count off this low, you have the low, a first attempt to go lower, then the second attempt to go lower. So when that broke above, that's a failed second entry short. and I'm just looking for probably a scalp. But really, in terms of the big picture, I was looking for prices to come up to the highs. At this point, I was okay. We have this little micro trend. It tried to go lower once, twice. It's losing steam. This thing's probably going to go higher. So I took the long. And I had to ride out a pullback. Um, this pullback was actually a 2-point pullback. So, uh, you know, that's tough. That's, you know, I should have been stopped out. I should have been stopped out. But kind of seeing the way prices were moving, I had a feeling that, once again, it's a stop loss error, so it's not a good thing to do. But I was really looking at this uptrend and saying, hey, like, see how this has so much stem? This has a lot of stem. We're probably not going lower. So I let it ride. Then prices finally start moving in my direction. At this point, going long, if you didn't go long here, maybe on this bar, there's nowhere to get long here. And that's the interesting thing about this trade, and that's why I will give this a buy signal, because one thing I've noticed is that when you get a failed second entry trade like this one, and it doesn't work, so I would have got stopped out, and then it sets up another signal in the direction of the trade you were trying to enter the failure in, this reset up that I'm calling it usually works. It usually works. I didn't quite think about that in the time because I was still in the trade, so I was in regardless. But had you not have taken this trade, you saw that it failed, and then immediately set up this nice bullish entry, a lot of times that works, and that would have worked. But in terms of getting in on this move, I mean, you can't really get in on any of these moves. Keep in mind, those lines wouldn't have been there yet. I got those lines from later price action. So the best you're working with at the time is maybe something like that. But I don't usually like to make a line until prices break out of my range, pull back, and continue higher. Then I make my line. Because for all I'm concerned, this is just a breakout that's going to fail and then come back down here eventually. So really, I wouldn't even have a line yet until I get a clear pullback and then a move higher type situation. So I'm just watching to see if this breakout goes all the way, or when it does pull back, what does the price action look like, and then start working on my exit. So kind of keeps continuing up pretty strong. Then this is our first pullback. Now, part of the reason why I didn't exit this trade was because, if you give me a second, let me get this charger going so my screen doesn't shut off in mid-video. I'm not used to recording video, so I'm still working on timing and making sure everything's set up beforehand. Okay, but when I got this bar and it broke below, I didn't exit because that close, it still closed inside the range of this bar. I've seen that a couple times now, where when it closes inside the range, it could still go lower, of course, but that's sometimes a sign that it's not actually ready to go lower. So I was willing to hold this, and once again, my take profit was at the highs, so only a few points off. I'm gonna let it ride, and when it comes back to my line down here, I'll try to exit if that's the case. So an interesting thing here is that this is kind of congestion. I don't count this as congestion I like to see the very first bar in the congestion has to swallow the rest. So as you can see, this bar is, this bar is outside of this bar. So you can play it like congestion and it honestly will work similar, but sometimes being super specific about the way you consider congestion keeps you in the right trade. Because in this instance, like, so for instance, I see a technical, now I see technical congestion. At this point, it's congestion because if I use this as my first bar, that's inside and then that's inside. The body, see how the open and close is inside of that? The open and close is inside of that. So that is technically congestion. And that actually makes me now think about exiting this trade because if it breaks above here, I could see it maybe come back down here, bounce around or whatever. But I was pretty confident still that, you know, prices are still coming to test this high. And then on this bar, we have a big breakout. And now actually is when I would draw that micro trend because, like I said, we had this range going on. We had a breakout, a pullback, and then a move higher. So now I'm willing to consider this micro trend as being a legitimate part of the market phase. And now I'm just, a tick away from exiting my position anyway. So just letting that play out. And on the next bar, I get out. That was pretty much it. As it's moving up here, you got to think about it. At the time, like this could have been a trade, but at the time, you're taking a long at the highs. They always say buy low, sell high. Well, you're literally buying high. So it would have worked, but it's really aggressive. So I wouldn't have been interested in that. I'm not interested in any of that. None of that really is, none of this really to me is worth taking the trade on. So, the day before a holiday is sometimes kind of slow. And the entries are kind of convoluted, especially in the ranges. So that's my takeaway is, day before holidays and you start seeing this range, just chill out. Mm, nothing really in there for you. So that was today's trading. Pretty good day for me. Pretty decent day. I'm not mad at it. But yeah, that's what we had. All right, guys. Talk to you later.